Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It is Friday, TGIF. It's the 11th of August. The 11th? Yes, it's the 11th of August, 2023. My name is Kerry Holzman. Thank you guys for tuning in and everybody hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you being in the chat because let's face it, 60 to 70% of the takeaway that a viewer can have from this video occurs in the live chat room. So people who watch this video after it airs live and they see the chat happening, but they can't participate in it, is likely because they're watching a replay, and YouTube doesn't really make that very clear. But we'd love to have you in the chat room and join us, especially if you're a kind person. If you're not a kind person, if you're not a considerate person, then move along. Speaking of kind and considerate people, let me give a quick shout out to some contributions that were made via Super Chat before the show started. Paul O'Brien with €2 says, "Hello, Daddy, the DNA is in the post." That's scary. Chris Johnson has renewed his membership now. He's been a member for 15 months. Thank you, Chris. That's pretty much a member since we started the memberships. And it's those memberships that are saving my bacon, let me tell you. Chris Johnson says, "Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you." Thank you to our good friend Buster, also known as Peter Laycock, joining us in the chat room all the way from Bonnie, Scotland, with a £10 Super Chat contribution. And Buster says, "Good evening, Kerry and Maralina." Well, I guess it's evening in Scotland. It's 8 or 9 hours later there. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Phoenix currently. Good evening, Kerry and Maralina and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh today, right now, is 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 18 degrees Celsius. Wow. That sounds lovely. We are 100 and... Oh, no. Wait a minute. It's updating. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, it is 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So not quite 100 yet, but the temperature will be going up during the next 4 hours. We'll see how miserable it gets. Find me in Hawaii. That's Ken. Ken contributes $9.99. I don't know where you are in Hawaii, but I hope it's not Maui for obvious reasons, and hope you're staying safe. Thank you, Ken, for your support. Mortot1210 has renewed his membership. Also looks like he's been here since the beginning. At 15 months of continuous membership, he says, "Hello, Kerry, and everyone in the chat. I'm glad to make a live stream." Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you, Mortot, for joining us. And I also want to acknowledge a couple of contributions that were made with Amazon gift cards before the show started. One in particular comes from a gentleman who deserves more recognition than I give him. He's contributed infrequently, but when he contributes, he's very generous. Dave Stetzel sent a $100 Amazon gift card today. Said he loves what we're doing with the mini PC reviews and wishes to support the channel to that end. Thank you, Dave. He's been a frequent, how can I phrase this? He's been a contributor for several years now. And, you know, when I'm always thinking about who to thank, I keep kicking myself in the butt that I forget to mention his name. So thank you for that continual generous support. And again, my deepest appreciation to Dave Stetzel. Also, what else did I miss? There was one other one here, I think. Richard Palmentier. So Richard sent an Amazon gift card for $25, and he had a technical question regarding CPU compatibility. So I guess Richard's getting ready to build his new PC, and he's just looking to make sure the parts he's going to order are compatible. And Kevin Doan sent a $10 PayPal contribution last night. He says, "Thank you for your amazing content on YouTube. I've been enjoying the mini PC videos." Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, it's those contributions that are making it possible for me to continue to make the sheer number of videos I've been making and not treat YouTube the way YouTube's been treating me, which is, I mean, there's a pro and a con to what's happening on YouTube. The con for me is the payments, the amount each viewer is worth for their view is less than half of what it was just 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And it seems to continue to decline. What I get paid to do my job in the real world goes up. It doesn't go the other way. What this means is that there's going to be some YouTube content creators who will not be able to make ends meet if they were pursuing YouTube as a career. And until and if this turns around, or if they have merchandise or sponsorships or some other way they can generate revenue, it's very, very difficult right now as a YouTube content creator, unless you're, a million plus subscriber level. Now, it's always been difficult, but it's getting more difficult. And the Super Chat contributions and the PayPal contributions, the Amazon gift cards, they are making up for the part that YouTube has taken away. And that's enabled us to more or less keep the show running without any appearance of struggle financially to keep getting materials and be able to have the time to take away from, my day job, if you will, to pursue this. And I thank you guys, those of you who contribute, for making that happen. So one of the downsides is that viewers who think they're doing a content creator a favor by watching the video. Before, it was a quarter of a penny. Each viewer was approximately worth per month per video. And now it's a little over, I think it's 0.013 penny. So that means when viewers feel like they want to be heard, they feel like and I do see this as a content creator, they feel entitled to a certain level of content, but they contribute nothing and all they want to do is criticize. Their criticism is worth less than half of what it was worth 2.5 years ago. And I don't know that they realize that, but the less impact the viewers have on the channel, the less impact they have on me. So if somebody cares enough to complain, but they don't care enough to contribute, I can't be bothered. I mean, I'm reaching a point where it's sort of like, there's not much to lose. You understand? I'm like, it's not like I'm worried that we have an amazing community here. And I would love to see the community grow. But a downside is that we do sometimes attract, whatever reason, some of the wrong people. And I do my best to weed them out. And I thank everybody in blue also for weeding them out as well. And it's a shame that they have this entitled attitude and will try to poison our community well. And I'm doing my best to protect it. But I do hope things do turn around. But in the meantime, you guys who contribute, you guys who are members, you are the main reason this channel is remaining as active as it's been with content. Well, I don't anticipate I would ever close the channel. Certainly the amount of time I have to make videos versus the amount of time I have to do work for customers, I'm going to pursue whichever one's going to have the best future for me. So I haven't, without you guys, essentially, what you would be seeing now is a video once a week. And the rest of the week I would spend on my business acquiring new customers and doing that. So if you have contributed, I want you to know that you are directly responsible for the sheer amount of content that I've been able to produce for the last, at least the last 15 months for sure. And I want everybody else to know that as well, because it's okay if they don't like the content and leave. If they're not willing to offer us anything to help us, then their complaint is falling on deaf ears. And it can be a little frustrating, to deal with the struggles and then turn around and deal with that. So at any event, it's just more of the same, right? I'm like a broken record on this, but I'd love to see it turn around. And in the meantime, I want everybody who contributes to know you have my utmost appreciation and more than I can express in words. Now, to that end, today's video has been brought to you essentially not only by the generous contributors, but the folks over at ACEMagic or ACEMagicians or ACEMagic. Well, they sent me a new mini PC to review. And ACEMagic has been releasing some, I'd say, mid-tier and lower end mini PCs, budget level. And I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to see something higher end coming from ACEMagic? Also, one of the things I like about Minis Forum, who also makes mini PCs, is they offer many of their systems as a bare bones, where you have to put in your own RAM, your own storage, and your own operating system. This reduces the cost of the machine, and then you can put better RAM, more RAM, faster, larger storage, and save yourself some money rather than having to rip out whatever it comes with if it's not good enough, and especially on a higher end PC. So I'm happy to see that ACEMagic is offering these higher end PCs now in a bare bones configuration. And I'm going to show you the page. We had a little error in, if you notice, the thumbnail and the title changed a couple times because these videos are live, and there was nothing on this box that indicated if this was the Intel version or if this was the AMD version. At least when I look back here at the checkboxes, there's nothing indicating Intel or AMD. It just says AD08. And if you go to Amazon and you search for AD08 mini PC, well, they have numerous different AMD and Intel chips available in this particular design. So from the outside, it looks exactly the same, but the prices are very different and the performance is very different. So what I want to do is we're just going to go over to ACEMagic.com, and you can just type ACEMagic.com. It's not an affiliate link. ACEMagic has sent us the PC for review, but they are not paying us for a review. We have no contract. So I'm free to be open and honest about how I feel about this PC, if it's something I would recommend. I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. I like this one, and I like it a lot. And I think you are too. Let me go over here now to the ACEMagic website, and we can look at it together. This apparently has not been released yet. So if I go over here, turn that off. There, that worked. Okay, so here we are. We're at ACEMagic.com. And apparently they're having a summer sale right now. And you'll see the AM08 is available as a Ryzen 9 6900HX, and the AD08 is also available as an Intel Core i9-11900H. So initially I thought we had the 6900HX, but we have the Intel Core i9-11900H. If I hit the Learn More button, you'll see that there is a shaded out box right here. So it's defaulting to taking us to the Ryzen 9 AD08 model, AM08Pro, Ryzen 9 6900HX. Now see here, barebone. And at barebone, it's $559.99. Here it is with 32 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of SSD storage for $609.99. And then there's another option down here. If it's shaded out, it means it's out of stock or not in stock yet. So over here, this shaded out box, this would be for our Intel version. And unfortunately, because it's shaded out, it doesn't give us any specification, but not to worry, we're gonna look at it in detail during today's video. But we'll scroll through some of the items they're listing here on the Ryzen 9. Now the Ryzen 9 is DDR5. Since this is an 11th gen Intel in this one, this should be DDR4, but we'll double check that. And it's going to have Windows 11 Pro. I imagine all the specifications are mostly going to be the same, with some differences regarding the chipset. And this does have a little bit of RGB, and it can be turned off very easily, and it has different modes that are selectable with a physical switch instead of software, which I'm all about. Now, all of this information, once again, is for the Ryzen version. We have this machine early. We're getting a very early sneak peek, and I appreciate the folks at ACEMagic for thinking of us and allowing us to have this exclusive content. So let's open it up and see what's inside. Now, I will tell you that I've already opened this and checked it for updates and got the updates out of the way. It was wrapped in a plastic bag, if you will. No, I take it back. It wasn't wrapped in a plastic bag. It had sheets of plastic that were stuck onto both sides. When I peeled the plastic off, it left sticky residue on the box. So I had to get some Goo Gone and get that sticky stuff off of there. And then the power supply unit itself, I believe, was in a bag as well. So aside from the packaging materials, everything in the box I put back as it was. And so here's what you're going to get. Here's what it looks like on the inside. Now, the plastic that's on here is really clever. The plastic that's on the other side has a piece that sticks out, and you can grab it and pull it, and it lifts the unit out of the package. However, it's just in foam, so it's pretty easy to get your hands around it. And I'm going to bring this up to the camera and show you close up. Apart from the specs, which are impressive on their own, apart from the fact that it is available as a bare bones option. Oh, and I just found a sticky spot right down here that I missed. If the camera will pick that up and you can see it. Yeah, you can see it there. That's what the residue, that's how strong the little plastic cover or sheet of plastic that's used in protecting it during shipping. They need to go a little easier on the glue, but it didn't take any paint off or anything like that. But here's the front of the unit. And as you can see, we've got this power button that's pretty obvious, but what may not be so obvious is the power button turns. If you notice, you'll see the power button tilts. And you can tell from the tilt of the power button what position you're in. So if we look at it like this, you'll see it's got silent mode, auto mode, and performance mode. The whole top of this is RGB. And then we have a little window here on the side that is also RGB. Now, apart from the standard ports, right, you got two USB 3s, two HDMI outputs. We've got our Ethernet. I'm not sure if it's gigabit or 2.5. We'll check that. Our barrel connector, our Kensington jack. And then, of course, up in the front, we have a USB Type-C, two more USB 3s, and then a headphone/microphone headset jack. All right. Now, this may not be good if you have small children around, but for everybody else, if you want to get into this computer, no tools are required. This piece that has the RGB window on it, you can simply grab a side of it and pull on it. It's simply held on with magnets. How cool is this? Look, we have dual channel RAM and we have our M.2 drive, and I suspect underneath the M.2 drive will be what I hope is a socketable Wi-Fi adapter. Then here you have a toolless 2.5-inch drive bay for a 2.5-inch SATA drive. Go here, and then it just nuzzles right up against this piece that locks it in place. Well, it doesn't really lock it in place, it rests in place there. So as you can tell, I am very pleased with just how easy this machine is, how user-friendly it is to upgrade it. What do you think of that? Now, on top of all of that, as though it couldn't get any better, the CPU they're put in this, and boy, did they send me the right one. Because when I saw it was a Ryzen 9, I just think of AMD and their drivers. But the one they sent me is the Intel 11900H. That's the 11th gen flagship chip. They didn't make them any faster in 11th gen than the 11900H in the portable processor division or part of that chip. This is a little rocket ship. Yesterday, we reviewed a machine from a company called BMax, and that machine was shipped and advertised to have Windows 11 Pro on it. And indeed, it did have Windows 11 Pro on it. However, that machine is not Windows 11 compatible. So while I was discovering this during the live video, many people participating in the live chat were making recommendations for how to fix it. And I did make a basic attempt at checking BIOS settings, but some people thought maybe there was a BIOS update. What you need to understand first and foremost is earlier on in the video, we determined that that CPU that was on yesterday's review of the BMax B6 Plus was not compatible. We confirmed that chip is not compatible. So any attempt to fix it with a BIOS update, you're just wasting your time. Furthermore, this wasn't a Goodwill find. We didn't find this out at the curb of somebody's trash. When you buy something new, you should not have to repair it or adjust it to make it operate properly. I had Camera Girl send an email to the folks at BMAX, and BMAX gave us the same reply Chewy gave us. For all I know, these could be the same people because the response was the same. They confirmed the chip has no TPM. However, it does have Windows 11 on it. Yeah. Well, I made it very clear that circumventing Microsoft security and compatibility checks to forcefully install Windows 11 is the equivalent of driving around the railroad track barriers that go down. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to drive your car around those barriers. And then when you get hit and killed because of the train, because you thought, look how smart I am, I don't have to sit here and wait for a train, I can drive around those barriers. That's the opposite of proving how smart you are. I am very, very disappointed in that company, and you will not be seeing any more of their products on this channel. So you can imagine with that fresh, that wound hasn't healed yet, how delighted I was, because ACEMagic has never let us down. And in this case, they've really turned up the heat on what they're capable of, because this is by far the single best ACEMagic computer I have ever seen. And yes, please, I hope there's more where this comes from, because ACEMagic is showing they don't just make budget boxes. If you're looking for a great value, performance to dollar, I think ACEMagic is worth considering. Now, with that being said, let me get it plugged in. We'll turn it on. As I mentioned, well, I turned it on last night and ran through Windows updates, but it didn't require me to bypass NRO. It does have Windows 11 Pro 22H2 as it should. And it didn't need very many updates. So it's a nice factory install of Windows 11 that appears to have been done right, as has been the case with all of the ACEMagic machines we've reviewed here over the years. It's been a couple of years now, right? We're not dealing with a fly-by-night company. They've been around for some time, and I expect they'll be around for some time yet to come. Here's our power adapter. Once again, it doesn't have the name of the company on it, so I would get a silver marker like a Sharpie or a label maker, and I would label this as ACEMagic. We have a power cable, we have an HDMI cable, and we have a small instruction manual. That's all there is. There's no mounting this behind a monitor. It's too big and awkwardly shaped, kind of a trapezoidal shape there. And let's get it plugged in. So I plug in the power adapter. I see Alhaj Stepej has been a member now for 8 months. He just renewed his membership and says, hello, Carrie and Marlena from Slovenia, where the situation after the floods is getting better. It'll take months that we repair all the damaged infrastructure, but we look to the future positively. Wonderful. Well, thanks for the update. Glad to hear you guys are in the cleanup phase and the rebuild phase. Thank you for continuing your membership. Paul O'Brien contributes €2. He says, here's for my Gatorade fee and a DNA test. And Donnie Seeger contributed $4.99 in Super Chat and says, thanks for what you do. Eric G contributes $5 Canadian in Super Chat. Thank you, Eric. Captain Blinsky with a $10 Super Chat says, sitting back and relaxing for the show. Right on. Thank you, Captain Blinsky, as always. Ben Laird with a £10 contribution joins us from Scotland. Douglas Burchell with a $2 Super Chat contribution says, here's just a little something. Our friend Rick Lakes joining us from Minnesota contributes $5 via Super Chat and says, glad to see you today, Carrie and chat. Well, we're glad to see you too. And our friend Mortant has been a member now for 15 months. He says, hello, Carrie and everyone in the chat. I'm glad to make a live stream. Once again, thank you, Mortant, for continuing your membership as well. And Yeah, for 15 straight months. That's awesome. Thank you, everyone. Now, let me step around and get this hooked up so we can fire it up and you can see the boot time, get an idea of, is it loud? Is it quiet? We can already tell how upgradable it is. We'll see what kind of Ethernet adapter and Wi-Fi adapter we got in here. Now, this is not a cheap computer. However, I would challenge you to find anything spec'd equal to or better than this for less money from any manufacturer. So when you consider what you're getting for the money, it almost stands alone. Let me, getting ahead of myself. Get my keyboard and my mouse. There we go. Turn these on. I'll plug my wireless keyboard and mouse dongle in there. Turn this around this way so you can see it. You just push that button in like so. Oh, I have to give it power. It helps if you plug it into power. It's a requirement. It's going to be a Mickey Mouse power cable, which they've included in the box. I'm not using the one in the box because I just have 2 standard power cables out here. So it just keeps us moving. All right, now when I press this, you'll see that it will light up. And the top also lights up, as you can see here. Right direction. And then you'll see that side of it lights up and matches the RGB on the top. Now, I'm going to turn this dial and put it into performance mode because that's where I would leave it personally, or I would leave it in auto. It does have a third setting that is called silent. Obviously, that's going to affect performance. It can run cooler by not running as fast, and therefore then the fans don't have to run as fast, and then that lowers how loud it is. So you pick which one you want, and it's just a twist of a dial. There's no software. That's really clever. I really like that a lot. Let's go over to the Windows capture screen. So I'm going to turn off camera 1 here, and we should see, yes, there we are. The RGB lighting control software starts with Windows, as you can see on your screen. And we can adjust the RGB for auto, turn it off altogether, rainbow, breathing, which is fading out and fading in, and cycling. Those are your RGB options. We can take a look at our specifications here by right-clicking on the Start menu, and we'll go to System. And that's going to show us we have the 11th Gen Intel Core i9-11900H. That's running at 2.5, but it can go much faster than that. And we'll come back to that in a minute. There's our installed RAM. It's dual channel, 2 sticks, 8 gigs each, for a total of 16 gigs. That's going to be 15.8 gigs usable because our onboard graphics needs to borrow some RAM. You'll see this was shipped with Windows 11 Pro 22H2. Now, if we go to the device manager, we should see security devices that represent where we'll locate a TPM module. Without a TPM, you don't have Windows 11 compatibility. And while you can force Windows 11 on a machine, you are not entitled to Windows updates. And Microsoft has stated that for you to expect updates in the future, you're getting them now, but don't be surprised when you stop getting them and there's nobody to complain to. That's what happens when you decide not to follow the rules. There are going to be likely consequences, but they won't tell you when. It's part of the risk you're going to take. So looking here, looking under security devices, that's the piece we were missing yesterday on that BMAX computer. And underneath security devices, we should see a trusted platform module or a TPM, and there it is. And that assures us we are Windows 11 compatible. Of course, we can run Microsoft's PC health checkup and hear it directly from Microsoft, but we can identify this without any third-party software or even specialty software from Microsoft. If we look under the network area of the device manager, we can see we have a Realtek Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi adapter, which also is our Bluetooth. So it's probably Bluetooth 5, I'm gonna guess. And also a Realtek gigabit Ethernet controller. So not 2.5, just gigabit. So I imagine most people who get this are probably going to have it wirelessly on their network. If we go over to Windows Update and just check for updates, you'll see that I've already done the updates, and there wasn't many updates. ACEMagic has done a great job on the install of Windows 11 on this, in my opinion, and I've taken out the software that I don't want, such as the Microsoft Media Player, Movies and TV, Microsoft OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, Xbox Live, Xbox Regular. There's a bunch of little things that Microsoft throws into Windows 11, and that's based on the region you're in. So basically, it's not bloatware. If anything was bloatware, I think OneDrive would, maybe Microsoft Teams might literally be bloatware, unless you actually use those, in which case, that's for each individual to decide for themselves. So I haven't run the optimization tool on this. I've not put VLC on it. I've not tested the speed of the drive or anything like that. So let's do that now. I'm going to grab my utilities flash drive and plug it in back here, and we'll copy over the files we need. So click here, and we'll bring over VLC, and we'll bring over Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer, and we will bring over Crystal Disk Mark. PC testing software, Crystal Disk Mark Portable. I always want to run the portable version of software. Don't want to be installing things on customers' computers unless it is something we intend to leave there. So with that copied over, what happened to my VLC? Did I not get VLC? It's not, I dragged it out properly. I'll just run the VLC installer right from the flash drive. The machine, even though it's in performance mode, I can barely hear the fan running. It's very, very quiet at this point. Of course, we're not torturing the machine either, but I would hardly know it was on if not for the RGB lights. Okay, so that installs our VLC, and we're going to go over here to Crystal Disk Mark, and let's see what kind of performance we're going to get out of this. I'm guessing it's an NVMe drive, but I don't know if it's Gen 3 or Gen 4. I think Intel didn't offer Gen 4 compatibility until 12th gen, maybe 11th gen. But it seems pretty clear to me we have a Gen 3 drive, and a pretty decent one at that. Some Gen 3 drives will run slower than 1,000. And if you're a system integrator, you're a manufacturer, and you want to get your price down as low as possible to attract the buyers, one way you can do that is by putting in less memory, slower memory, less storage, slower storage. ACEMagic hasn't done that, which is good. At a machine of this caliber, it appears to have a Gen 3 NVMe drive. It is the standard 512 gig size, and it does look like we only have the one M.2 slot. So if you wanted to expand storage on this, you'd either want to replace that M.2 with something larger, or just plug in something USB and go external. That also keeps the heat out of the system too. Bear in mind, the faster things go, the hotter they get, and then that results in a noisier computer, and in some cases a less reliable computer, especially if it starts affecting performance, where things start getting so hot they start to throttle their own performance in order to slow down, to cool off. So that means whatever process you're doing will take a little bit longer to complete if you're thermal throttling. But that does save the computer from crashing or overheating. So while we're waiting on the test to complete, let me take a look in the chat and see what you guys are saying. Pete Unwin says, hello all from the UK. Welcome in, Pete. Welcome into Ron Barnish and Alan Lindos. Jai Test joins us. Jai Test says it supports 64 gigs of DDR5 and includes Wi-Fi 6E. And so that's not a Wi-Fi 6E adapter, pretty sure. I think you're looking at the Ryzen 9 specifications. Believe me, it confused us too. So you're not alone in that. Alvin Shaver said it's a mighty little mini. Yeah, it's a little larger than an average mini, but also a different, completely different design. And the fact that it sits vertically is also different. So it takes even less desk space up than a standard mini because its footprint is much smaller. David Herzog says hello. Welcome in, David. Gabriel Granada saying hello. Feral Terminator says hello. Sherry McFarland joining us. Good to see you, Sherry. Ralph Kirby saying hello. Jason Wyrick, Doman 2000, Jim KJ3N, and Dwayne Blackwelder all say hello. Welcome in, guys. Good to see you, my friends. Okay, so our write speed looks like 2717 on our sequential writes. That's really decent for a drive that comes included. You'd be hard pressed to notice any difference in performance with a more expensive drive. The only reason I would consider replacing the drive is simply to have more storage. And while I'm sure a 4 terabyte drive or an 8 terabyte drive would work in this, I would be concerned about the heat. So I wouldn't go any more than 2 terabytes. In fact, you know, that Samsung 970 Evo Plus that Amazon's got for, what is it, $80 would be a nice upgrade to this machine. It gives you both the performance of Gen 3 NVMe storage, along with 4 times the capacity of the stock unit. You might want to consider a solid state drive that has its own heatsink on it from the factory, or you might consider taking the heatsink off of the NVMe storage on this one. I would definitely put a heatsink on the storage because there's no real airflow on that side of the case where the RAM and the storage are. There's Dave Stetzel. Thanks again to Dave Stetzel for his generous contribution. He's joined us, and just want to say, if you weren't here to hear me acknowledge you, Dave, thank you for your generous Amazon gift card earlier. Glad to see you in the chat room. All right, there is our final results with regards to SSD performance. I'm happy with that. Let me look at the task manager here for a second, see what it says about our RAM. Under performance, let's drag this out this way. So this just shows us the base speed at 2.5. It doesn't show us the turbo speed, but we'll look that up here in a minute. RAM shows it's 3200 megahertz, so that's going to be DDR4. It is not DDR5. DDR5 is on the Ryzen version. For graphics, we're using the built-in graphics processor that's part of the Intel CPU. And when it comes to, see something here, I am kind of curious just to verify that our M.2 storage is only Gen 3. I'm pretty certain it's going to be Gen 3. If we were at 12th gen or later, then I would hope it's Gen 4. Once again, without any airflow in that area, putting a Gen 4 drive in this would likely end up with some thermal throttling problems under heavy reads or writes. But if it were possible, it could double the performance, but also not when it's overheating. All right, so let me shut this down. So over here and we'll choose shut down. Oh, you know what? Wait, let me do this. Let's hit restart. And let's see how long it takes to shut down and to boot up. You guys know this is all live. Everything's happening unscripted and unrehearsed, and it happens in real time. So there's your post screen, and you can start counting the seconds to when we get to the desktop. And that's from the factory. I've not done anything to this to optimize it, apart from taking off some of the software I didn't want, which really doesn't have any impact on the boot time. And I have not run the optimizer, and I've only put the updates on it. So I've not done anything else to enhance the performance. This is just how you get it from the factory. All right, so as you can see, that was your boot time there in real time. Now let's shut it down. And well, it does show the desktop there. Now it's powered off, the lights have gone out. It's not messing around. That is a very respectively quick computer. Thomas Backenso says, that's very fast. Yeah, and it looks good doing it. Let me find a Gen 4 NVMe drive here, and let's just test to see if it's Gen 4 capable. I don't think it is. Likely a Gen 4 drive is going to run at Gen 3 speeds because it's likely a Gen 3 chipset. So what do I have here for a Gen? Let's see. This might be an ideal consideration. You know, solid state drives are very inexpensive right now. I see 1 terabyte drives at $30, 2 terabyte drives. I'm seeing it on the cheap end at 50, 60 bucks. And this is a Western Digital high performance Gen 4. I believe this is an SN850. This is the P. It's designed for PlayStation. It's got the built-in heatsink. This would be an ideal replacement, in my opinion, if this supported Gen 4. If this does not support Gen 4, save your money. Don't spend extra for the higher performance Gen 4. Instead, go with the Samsung 970 EVO 2 terabyte drive. Those are on sale right now at Amazon for like $80 or a little less. So let's get this opened up and see what's going to happen. I hope to develop another way to determine if the chipset supports Gen 3 or Gen 4 or Gen 5 SSDs without physically trying to install one and seeing what speed it actually runs at, because they're all backwards compatible. No differently than USB 3 will work on a USB 2 port or a USB 1 port, just as a USB 1 device will work in a USB 3 port. So it's only going to operate at whatever speed of this is the slowest of the devices that are connected to each other. This does get a little bit warm, but it's not hot, but you can definitely tell it was on. I'm going to go ahead and pull the power. And I'm going to unburden myself from those cables. Hey, close-up camera girl. Are you busy? Would you like to be? We could use some close-ups for this part. What am I here for? I'll give you a shiny nickel. Okay. In my deepest gratitude. Looks like we've got 320 people watching us in the live chat right now. And let's see, I want to go to close-up camera. Are you ready? I am. Come on over. Okay, so right down here, there doesn't seem to be any sort of a pull tab, but it looks like you can get a fingernail or something underneath of it. Oh, must be this side. So when the machine is facing you, it's this side that comes off. Does that look like a light on? What's that? Oh, that's the USB port down there. Pull that off. And inside, that's what our guts look like. Let's just take this NVMe drive out. I'm going to put this NVMe drive back in, and when I do, I'll take a look at who manufactures it. It's pretty respectably fast, I will say. Kind of curious what's on the other side. This is toasty. Now this is the Western Digital black with the built-in heatsink. It's got the PlayStation logo, so they charge a little bit more for it because, you know, PlayStation. But they were on sale, and I thought these would be great in mini PCs where you need a heatsink. Sometimes if you add your own heatsink, you'll end up with the heatsink too high and you won't be able to close the lid. In this case, I think that we could still put a 2.5-inch drive in here. This feels pretty flush to me. But be aware that if a heatsink is too tall, it could hinder your ability to add a 2.5-inch drive. And without the heatsink, you could run into overheating problems, which could result in system performance that stalls.
You're not going to do the RAM?
No, because I want you to take a look at the RAM. If you notice, this RAM has RGB on it. So if we replace this RAM, we will lose the RGB on the side. That is wired into the module. I was hopeful it was something that clicked onto the module, but when I plug this back in and turn it on, I want you to see, I'm just going to turn it on right here so you can see the RGB. And that's built onto those RAM modules. So if you want to upgrade the RAM, you absolutely can, but you will lose that RGB unless, I mean, there's probably somebody out there selling that RAM, but I've never seen RAM like that before.
You should look for it.
And then you can see sort of the sticky residue from the plastic they put on here. I thought I cleaned it, but it's like I missed a spot. You can see how that shines through the window. See the window on this side? And at the top, you see our dial. Just tap the screen right there. Should tell the camera to focus. There we go. Silent, auto. You notice when it's on performance, the power light is red. When it's on auto, the power light is green. And when it's on silent, power light is blue. So blue is silent, green is auto, red is performance. So you don't even have to read what the setting is. You can tell just from the color of the power button. Now let me plug in our HDMI, and let me grab a Windows 11 install media, and we'll throw Windows 11 on here real quick. I could clone it, but just for the sake of testing the drive performance, I think it'll just be faster for us to install Windows 11, because I don't intend on keeping the drive in there. So let me go over to our HDMI input. Okay, camera girl, you can take a break. Oh, it says no signal. Okay, let me turn it off and back on again. Because I did not have an HDMI cable plugged in, it did not initiate either of those two ports. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this unit back on. And then hopefully this time it'll auto-detect monitor. Nope. Okay. Hold on just a second. We'll go back over to, there it goes. It's starting to turn on now. And it should initialize the screen here in just a second. with me for a moment. In fact, while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and put myself back here just so you don't get confused as to whether or not you've lost the signal. It's entirely possible that it does not want to initialize that Gen 4 NVMe drive. It's not very common, you'll see this, but it can happen. I've seen it infrequently. So I want to try a different Gen 4 drive. The outside RAM module is not seated all the way. Oh, did I not sit it all the way down? Oh, you're right. It's sticking out on one side. Sharp eye. Thank you, Sarge Tech. That'll keep us from initializing. That's for sure. Okay. Cover back on it. And let's plug it back in. And we'll turn it back on. And this time, we should be more successful. There we go. And away we go. See that? Thank you, community. And everybody else who mentioned it. All right. That's much better. So it wasn't what I initially anticipated. I just was a little overconfident in seating that module. So we're going to go over here and just go through our standard next and install now. We'll go to just the standard procedure you'll always see me follow. Accepting the license agreement, hit next, custom, next. And now it's partitioning, formatting, and installing Windows 11 Pro on that brand new Western Digital SN850p Gen 4 NVMe drive. Once Windows 11 installs, we don't have to worry about any drivers. We can accurately test the performance of the drive based on the Windows 11 basic drivers. And if the drive continues to operate at around 3,600 or below megabytes per second on those sequential reads, then we know it's a Gen 3 socket that we're plugging it into. On the other hand, if it runs between 6,000 and 7,300 megabytes per second, then we know it's actually a Gen 4 socket. The drive I just took out would be a Gen 3 drive. I suspect it's a Gen 3 socket with a Gen 3 drive, but I just want to verify. Les Stevenson said, it only takes one part not fitting right and it won't work. Yeah, well, same is true with a car. I learned that lesson the hard way when my first car, one bolt came out of the starter and the car wouldn't start because the other bolt had backed out enough that every time the starter would kick into the flywheel or to the flex plate, it would kick the starter away and it wouldn't turn the engine over. And I just thought, you know, hundreds of components all working together and one missing bolt and none of it works. Same old story. All right, as you can see, Windows 11 installing very, very quickly here. The thing is, Intel introduced Gen 4 M.2 compatibility in the 11th gen desktop processors. And so it depended on the motherboard you used, if the motherboard supported it. And there are some like 500 series motherboards that were for 10th gen that offered 11th gen compatibility, where you had an M.2 slot that would not work unless you had an 11th gen CPU in it. But when it comes to the mobile processors, which is what these mini PCs are using, I'm not sure when Microsoft introduced that compatibility to Gen 4, because it requires Microsoft, not Microsoft, it requires Intel making the CPU that's capable of PCIe Gen 4 performance. It also requires you have a motherboard with a chipset that supports that as well. So we go through just this final setup here. And in fact, I already know it's going to want me to sign into the network without giving me an option. So because it's my Windows 11 install. So I'm going to hit Shift F10 now. That takes us right to a command prompt, and I will type OOBE/bypass NRO just to save a little time. We won't have to go through I already know the obstacle that's coming, so we'll get around it right now. Colin Hunt with a £2 contribution. And Colin Hunt's been a member for over 12 months. Thank you, Colin. All right, now I'll say United States, skip. I don't have internet. Continue with limited setup. Username of user, password blank. This really doesn't matter because I'm going to blow this out anyway, but just keep doing everything the same way I always do it for consistency. And yeah, that's how fast a Windows 11 install is on this bad boy. Now, I'll grab my other flash drive while we're waiting. And that's got my Crystal Disk Mark utility on it. Just as I copied it before, I will copy it again. As soon as the desktop comes up here, we'll copy the utility over, run it, see what our results are, and we'll know then if we have a Gen 3 or Gen 4 capable socket. Alaj Stepej presents a link to AliExpress where there is RAM that has, it's SODIMM RAM that has RGB on it, apparently. Well, that figures. Of course, you could find it at AliExpress, right? Nick Poverman says a quick hello from Tuxedo, New York. Going to a wedding in about an hour. Have a great show. So I guess Nick is in a tuxedo. Mahalo Sims says hello, welcome in. And we are now at the desktop. So let's close that out. Go over to the yellow folder. We should see the utilities flash drive under PC testing software. We'll drag out Crystal Disk Mark Portable. And let's just execute it right now because I'm anxious to see what the results are. Okay, make sure we're testing drive C and not the flash drive. And I only need to do the top tests. The read test is really all I need to see. If we have 3600 or less, then the motherboard is only Gen 3. Okay, that's it. So the motherboard is, as I suspected, it's Gen 3. The good news is you can save a lot of money buying a Gen 3 drive. When you go to Gen 4, the price goes up for the same capacity. When you go to Gen 5, the price goes up again for the same capacity. You'll be less likely to have any heat concerns on a Gen 3 drive. Not that it matters, because even a Gen 4 drive is only going to run at Gen 3 speeds, as you can tell from the results of our test. So that answers that little mystery. So let's turn that, stop this test. Read and writes, well, of course, that's a Western Digital drive. For a minute, I was like, wow, that's really good. But of course, it's good. That's a high-performance drive. All right, we'll turn this back off. And I'll go back full screen on camera 1, and we're going to put the original NVMe drive back in it. We'll run Crystal Disk Info so we can see who the make and model are, because it appears to be a really good solid-state drive. Oh, and I got to go to the side with the RGB. That's the side that comes off. It can be a little confusing, but the side comes off so easily that it's pretty obvious when you have the wrong side, because it doesn't budge. Would you mind checking the front door? Okay. magnet on here is not very strong. Is okay, so this can be put away for use in another build another day. And that is toasty. That's really toasty. We'll put the original, or the OEM drive back in. I won't touch the RAM this time. A long screw for the M.2. I'm surprised how much I had to turn that. Okay, seat that back down. And we'll plug it back in and turn it back on. I'm going to leave my flash drive plugged in because I need to copy the Crystal Disk Info utility this time. So let's go over to our HDMI input. It's already booted up, of course. And I'm going to go over to my flash drive. Right here, we're going to go to, oh, there it is. Okay. It had to think about it for a second. Crystal Disk Info. That's going to give us the make and model information. Close that. Close that. And let's see how it identifies the make and model of solid state drive, because the heatsink's covering up that information. Okay, company I've never heard of before, CYX. It's a CYX SSD. C1000 apparently is the model. It does show that it's a PCIe 3.0, which of course we've already figured out. So a lot of times when I see these brands I don't recognize, I think the worst. This one's performing quite well. It's almost at a Samsung-like level of performance. So pretty pleased with that. Whoever decided the configuration of where they were going to source the RAM, where they were going to source the solid state drive, I'd never heard of this RAM maker. I've never heard of the solid state drive maker, but both seem to be very equal to the big name brands in performance. So ideally they'll be cheaper because they're not big name brands. So with that, back over to camera one, take a look in the chat room and see if anybody has any questions for me. Was that UPS?
No.
Was that for me? Oh, it was a salesman?
Yes.
Oh, darn it. I'm waiting on a motherboard on Friday, next Friday. It's been a while since we've done a computer build. So I'm going to do a computer build featuring what I feel is the best bang for the buck right now. And that's going to be featuring an i5 13500, not a 13500K, not an AMD. I think the best bang for the buck right now, for me personally, and for my customers, hard pressed to beat that 13500, especially if you pair it with DDR5. Some motherboards are still DDR4 that you can put a 13th gen in. I would get a motherboard that has DDR5 support. And for grins and giggles, we'll throw the latest and greatest Gen 5 overpriced 2 terabyte drive that should reach speeds of 12,500 megabytes per second, or approximately 3 times, a little over 3 times faster than the one that we're using right now. And that one's fast. And of course, Gen 5 SSDs, we're going to use the heatsink that the motherboard comes with to stave off the heat that drive is going to create when it's being used. And if your motherboard supports Gen 5, it likely already has a heatsink as part of the motherboard, and that's the heatsink you should be using. Don't waste your money buying an SSD that already has a heatsink on it. The motherboard heatsink in almost all cases will be superior and will do a better job. On the other hand, if you're going to use a Gen 5 drive and something that doesn't already come with its own heatsink, then if I were you, I would buy a Gen 5 drive that comes with a heatsink instead of guessing as to what heatsink is going to be good enough. They do get very, very, very hot, and they are very fast. Those two things are related. Bajin Guy said, on a Windows 11 home computer, I tried running Windows, carries Windows 10 optimizer. During the process, a window kept saying access denied. Do I shut off the antivirus and then rerun the optimizer? Access denied is what you're supposed to see. What that's doing is it's turning off the indexing. Indexing is turned on by default. And I don't know any customers that utilize indexing, and it takes up hard drive space. So when you run Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer, it turns off drive indexing, and any files that are in use or open at the time can't be manipulated. And so therefore an access denied error will occur. It's perfectly normal. In fact, we can run it on here right now, and you can witness that. That is standard operating procedure. It is what you are supposed to see. The good news is, because of how it's been programmed, it will turn the indexing off faster than if you do it by hand. Doing it by hand means you go to your C drive. Well, here, let me show you. Because I used to do this all by hand before I had the optimizer. And the optimizer not only automates everything for me, which means I'm less likely to forget a step, it also does it much, much faster. So here on a standard install of Windows 11, and this is ACEMagic's install of Windows 11. If we go to the Windows Explorer here, go to this PC, and I right-click, go to Properties on the C drive. See this checkbox that says Allow Files on the Drive to have the contents indexed in addition to file properties. This consumes system resources, and I like to turn that off. So when you run Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer, you'll see that one of the options, and the optimizer is smart enough to know what optimizations you are lacking. For some reason, it's not letting me click on it. Why can I not click on my What is it doing? There we go. So the optimizer comes up, and there's a bunch of check boxes here. These boxes are checked based on the current status of your system. So if you try and run the optimizer twice in a row, for example, it's smart enough to say on the second attempt, it'll say you don't need the optimizer, everything's already optimized. It also gives you the option of reversing any of these settings. And turning off drive indexing is in one of these. Remove content indexing. So the access denied is a message you're seeing from this step. And you'll see it here. As I hit apply, you're going to see access denied. That is exactly what you want to see. That is a good thing. And of course, it does the rest of the tweaks, and then we restart for those changes to take effect. See how fast that boots? There's Mats Olaf in the chat room. He says, Carrie, I have an eye on you. I hope so. And to the point of YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Mats Olaf. Good to see you, my friend. All right. Do any of you have any questions about this build? I left anything unanswered, I'll do my best to find an answer or point you in the direction of an answer if I don't know it. Or if you have a question unrelated to the computer, if you're having a technical problem, please feel free to ask your question in the chat room. Even if I don't see it, we have a number of very knowledgeable people that are regular members of our chat room who are more than happy to provide a suggestion on how to resolve whatever the obstacle is you're trying to overcome. And of course, I'll contribute in that vein as well if I have anything to add. If you're enjoying the content, yes, please give it a thumbs up and be sure and subscribe. Where's my, there, yeah. If you haven't, please hit the thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell icon, click that to turn on notifications so that you can be alerted anytime a new video is posted or anytime we go live. Generally speaking, I go live every single Friday at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern. If you're not quite sure of the time zones, you can simply use Google and you could type into Google, what time in Phoenix? And it'll tell you the current time in Phoenix. And then you can look at your clock or your phone. You can do the math. It's really easy to figure out time zones these days. So every Friday we do a live show with a very interactive and engaged chat room. On Mondays, for members only, I do a live video. The video is unlisted, it's hidden. If you're not a member, you won't see it as an option to even click on it. Those videos obviously have a much smaller turnout because the vast majority of viewers, over 99% of viewers, are not members. So for that fewer than 1%, as I mentioned earlier, these folks, their contributions and their support of the channel would mean without them, you wouldn't have as much content on this channel to watch for free. So to show my appreciation to those folks, I do a video just for us to interact. That's every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So what I was about to say earlier is, generally speaking, if I'm going to post a new video or go live, generally that happens at 1 p.m. Pacific time. What about the rest of the days of the week? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday? I will post or go live during the days of the week that I don't have my day job or errands, doctor's appointments, haircuts, all the things that you have to do in life. And those will typically start at 1 p.m. as well. So turning on notifications can keep you alerted to that. You can also follow me on Twitter, @Holzman at Twitter. I always post a heads up on Twitter for upcoming videos. You could also follow me over on Facebook. I always post a heads up for upcoming videos on Facebook and Twitter at the same time. Or you can turn on your notifications. There's a lot of different ways to be alerted. Or you could simply come back every day at a little after 1 o'clock. And if I'm going to be live, it's likely going to be, in that time period. There are some days where I start at a different time, but more times than not, if I'm going to do a video that day, it'll usually be 1 p.m. Pacific time. AIJ in the chat says in the UK, that's a 9 p.m. start time. So 1 p.m. Pacific time is 9 p.m. in the UK. Thank you for that. PH Ringer says that's 5 p.m. ADT in Eastern Canada, half an hour later in Newfoundland. There you go. The time zones are real easy to figure out. Let's say, for example, somebody kidnaps you. I don't know. Somebody takes you to some location. You don't know where you are. All you have to do, if you have your smartphone on you, is literally ask Google, where am I? You can try it right now. Say, where am I? And it will tell you your exact location. So if you're you're lost, you want somebody to come get you, and they say, where are you? You don't say, I don't know. You say, hold on a second. I'll tell you in a second. Google will provide this information. All these things the people about privacy are concerned about, crying about, are the things that may one day save your life. And the people who are the loudest about privacy concerns in that regard are likely a majority of the people who aren't rescuable when things like this happen. So there's a lot of advantages. It's not all negative. There's a lot of pros. You can choose to see it one way or the other. You'll notice I always leave location settings on. It's a great safety feature to keep on, especially in an emergency. So something to think about. But do know that you can simply ask your phone, where am I? And it will precisely tell you where you are. And that can be a real lifesaver. Tim Davern has renewed membership now for 15 months in a row. Tim has been a member. He says, thanks, Kerry, for all you do. Hey, Tim, thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you, my friend. So a real life example of this was a friend calling who was being abused by her boyfriend, and he had taken her somewhere and she didn't know where she was. And she said, what do I do? And I said, tell me where you are and I'll come get you. She said, I don't know where I am. I know I'm in a house and I know generally where it is, but I don't know the address of the street. Just ask Google, where am I? Now, this is particularly important to females, especially if you've made a new friend and it turns out that that person's not so friendly. You're not exactly sure where you are because you weren't paying attention to the street names and the addresses. Now you're in a situation and you need help and you're by yourself. Just so you know. Matt Zoloff says, Kerry, I have an issue with Netflix, but I'll be back. Don't get it? I'll be back again. Well, I'd like to learn more about what the issue is, and maybe we can help you resolve it. David Ice says, Kerry, my membership will be late next month. My debit card got hacked, but I'll renew it as soon as possible. Hey, David, just so you know, I don't control the membership. Like, that's all YouTube. I can't tell when you renew or you don't renew. I mean, I'd have to purposely go and look you up individually by name to see if you're a current member or not. I don't get any other notification. YouTube doesn't tell me. I have to go look for it. So it just stinks anytime, look, there's a lot of bad people out there and we've got to protect our assets, because if you don't, people will take them. I'm sorry to hear you're going through that. Appreciate your membership and support of the channel. And hopefully you'll get that straightened out quickly. Matthew Burton has renewed his membership, also a member now for 15 months in a row. Hello, Kerry, Matthew Burton says. Happy Friday. I sent you a little something to help on your next mini PC review. Hey, right on. Let me check the phone. And again, if you have any questions about the ACEMagic PC, if there's anything I haven't covered, do my best to provide an answer. Frankie B sent $100 using Zelle. Right on. Frankie B, you're the man. Thank you. David Ice wants to know if he can purchase this PC after I'm done reviewing it. No, I can't. I cannot sell these review units, just so you know. Review units don't have any support. They are not for retail sale. And if ACEMagic finds out that I have sold a review unit, they likely will remove me from their reviewer list. So, but I appreciate that you emailed that to me. Barry Klein with a $25 Amazon gift card. Thank you, Barry. Matthew Burden sent an Amazon gift card of $25. He says, happy Friday. Here's a little something for the next mini PC. And Ron Barnish contributes a $10 Amazon gift card. And Mortant sent an Amazon gift card of $50. He says, here's $50 for the channel. Keep up the great work. Right on. Well, thanks, you guys. Thank you, of course, to Frankie B with that very generous contribution. Thanks to all of you. It's the community that keeps this channel rolling, and it keeps us with a variety of content, as well as making it possible for me to make more videos more often, so I don't have to spend that time generating revenue through, you know, actual work. Yeah. Mark Gaines contributes 10 pounds in Super Chat. He says, nice little PC. I like the RGB. Thank you, Mark. Mark joins us from Northern Ireland. So yeah, if we look at the PC as it's sitting in front of me here, and you see that the RGB on the side and here, let's go to the HDMI input. I'll put myself, I'll make myself a little bit smaller. And the reason I want to still leave the picture really big here, so you can see that when I click on these options here on the RGB software here, we've got auto, we've got off. When I click off, you'll see the RGB will turn off entirely. Oh, I take it back. Apparently it has no impact on the RGB on the RAM. That's interesting. Rainbow, so that's affecting the top of the unit. Breathing, that's where the lights will fade in and then fade out. And then there is just cycling colors. So I'll just leave it on auto. Well, that's interesting that the RGB on the RAM isn't affected by that. I thought it was, but I don't imagine, although we could check in the BIOS, I don't imagine there's any way to turn that RGB off on the RAM. You'd have to replace the RAM with non-RGB if you didn't want it. That's what it appears anyway. But let's take a look in the BIOS. Paul O'Brien with a €2 contribution says, I'll follow you anywhere, Daddy. Don't tell the cops. Okay. Not quite sure what to make of that. Thank you for the contribution. All right, let me go into the BIOS. Let's take a look at what it looks like here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to go to Start and then Settings. Then we'll go over to, there's Update. Advanced. Go to Recovery. Advanced Startup. Start now. This is going to bring up a menu page for how we want to restart, right? So let's just I'll get rid of myself there so we can see this. Okay, so I want troubleshoot, advanced options, UEFI firmware settings, start. Okay, so there we are in the BIOS. And let me go full screen here. That's full screen for me, guys. You already have it full screen. CPU configuration page here. For performance. Stuff regarding our onboard video. Memory configuration page. There's nothing regarding turning RGB on or off. I didn't think there would be. And under security, that's just setting up a password for the BIOS. This is our boot configuration and boot order here, which I can turn a lot of this off. There's no option to disable that. Maybe the minus key. Weird, I don't see the disabled option here. So plus and minus are moving it around, but they're not removing it. That's weird. And then our save and exit. So pretty straightforward BIOS. So yeah, there's no RGB control on the RAM. Let's discard our changes and restart. Andy Kane said he sent an Amazon gift card. Let's check our email while we're waiting for this to reboot here. Unfortunately, I don't have anything from you, Andy. I do see Nick Caffrey submitted $15.79 via PayPal. And Alan Lindos submitted a $7.77 Amazon gift card. Thank you for that. And then we'll go back over here to, well, wait a minute. Before I go back to camera one, let's hit Control-Alt-Delete, go to the Task Manager. Under Performance, under CPU, this has 8 cores and 16 threads, so that's a seriously powerful processor. And if we want to look up the specifications of the 11900H, let's see, frequency. Probably have to plug it into the network in order to do that search, though, don't I? Try that again. As soon as this little world icon becomes a little monitor, there it goes. So it'll crank up to 4.8 gigahertz. I knew it was fast. All right, so that answers that question. And bear with me a second here. Okay. That was the UPS guy. That's the package I was waiting for. Now I have what I need to do the system build. Just waiting on the motherboard. And that's why I didn't have today's video titled yet, because if that package was going to arrive before noon, this would have been an entirely different video. But either way, it's good content either way. So we've got something to look forward to next week. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the ACEMagic AM08 that we're looking at, or any other PC-related questions that we can help you with? Otherwise, we might have a short video for today. It's a relatively simple computer to review. There's really not much in the way to improve on it. I think the way it comes equipped with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig SSD is more than adequate for 90% of the people out there. Again, if you wanted to add or change the storage, you certainly could do that with a different M.2 drive, or what I would recommend is just simply going USB. Oh, I was going to check what we have for the Wi-Fi adapter. Now, it just occurs to me I didn't follow through with that. So let me go back over to computer here and let's shut it down so I can open it up again. Close that. Close that. Shut this down here. And back over to camera 1. Pull the power cable. And let's see what we have. I keep trying to remove the wrong panel. It's really obvious to look for the panel that doesn't have the writing that says Mighty on it. That's not the panel that comes off. The panel with the RGB window is the panel that comes off. So don't mind me while I scold myself. And yeah, where is our Wi-Fi? We're going to have to dig into this a little bit deeper because it was not located under the M.2 drive when I opened that. When I changed the M.2 drive out, there was nothing under it, and that's usually where the Wi-Fi adapter is located, but there is nothing usual about this layout. It's a very different configuration, which I personally find very welcome. So there's one screw there, screw here. Apparently the screwdriver is a little too wide to go all the way down and reach the head of the screw at the bottom end of this PC. That's interesting, because that's a pretty narrow driver, but it's not narrow enough. This might be our savior right here. Yep. Appears that it is not magnetized. So I'll just run it across my magnetizer here. That's better. Okay. Oh, and there's a screw right here in the middle, I guess I missed. So 3 screws across the top, 2 across the bottom, and I think this piece now should lift off, maybe? Maybe. I mean, it's still in there really tight, and there's really nowhere to grip it. There's also this little holding piece here, which might be secure. I mean, I wouldn't think that that's holding this cover in, but it could be. Something's still holding it in. Let me grab a light. Take a look here. See what I'm missing. Okay. Here's I've gotten all the screws out. So why is this not coming out? It does appear that the M.2 drive will have to come out to take this piece out. I should be getting really good at taking the M.2 out and back in again. still, we are being held in by something. Because if it was me that designed this, I would think that this plastic piece here should lift straight off once the screws are removed. And we've got all the screws removed, but the plastic piece goes underneath the M.2 drive, and there's a hole cut out for the mounting screw and for the M.2 connector. So you definitely want that M.2 drive out. You see a small indentation here. Maybe we could get something in there and see if that will come off. It's definitely getting some motion here from the top. And it appears something is holding it in from the sides. Don't want to force anything. It's a nice machine. I don't want to hurt it. Don't make me hurt you. Something is holding it in, and I just can't tell if it's plastic clips. I'm thinking it's likely plastic clips are holding it in. I'm hesitant to really put a lot of pressure on it. I'm afraid I'm going to break it. Looking to see if there's any area that, looks like an indentation or something that would be used to release this piece, whatever's holding it in. I would have thought this cover would have lifted right off. It does look like it could potentially bump up against this one RAM module right here. It does have a cutout, but because of the RGB, it kind of extends over the cutout, but we're not even getting that far. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Well, I don't really want to take it apart any further. It does appear that our Wi-Fi adapter appears to be right under here. And I don't see any other way to open this. I would be even curious how this other side panel comes off. Because for all I know, that could be screwed down. And we definitely don't want to go prying at this. So it's in there really, really tight. And it's tight to the point where it feels like there's still a screw somewhere holding it. That makes me very nervous. So as it goes to replace or upgrade the Wi-Fi or to replace the CMOS battery, we will have to do a little more research into verifying how this opens, because I don't want to find out the hard way and break it. So I'll do a little research on that one, and we'll revisit that in a later date. Let me just put it all back together before I break something. Once again, it seems my main internet connection here at Studio A has gone out on me. This is very, very strange. It's been doing this right around the same time the last couple of days. Now I see the modem is lit back up. Whatever that was all about seemingly has come back online. I don't know. It has not affected, apparently, the secondary internet connection, which is what I'm using to broadcast. And I do record the live streams on the streamer, just in case something does happen. We still have the session recorded, so it can be uploaded if need be without interruption. All right, let me put the screws back in. Dropping the screws down into their holes. And I'll grab this driver here, tighten those back down. Seems like it doesn't need those screws. Seems like it's in there just fine without any screws holding it down. So that'll be a question to be answered another day. This piece goes back on. This piece went here. And yeah, this has what appears to be a padded lip on it, so that this will hold your drive down. There's no screws that will secure a drive in place. So in one way, that makes it very easy and very convenient to add a 2.5-inch drive. Some people might be a little nervous about that fitment, but I think you'd have to jar this pretty heavily to break it free. Okay, well, I've got it all put back together. We'll put the cover back on it. And here at the bottom of the panel, it says, enjoy power, enjoy life. Okay. There you go. That's your advice from ACEMagic. Let me see what's happening over here now that my internet's come back up. Chat. Starshine says, we think there is a screw under the RAM. You know, that would explain a lot if there was. But the RAM looked like the plastic looks like it's cut out around the RAM, but we can look real quick. I'll just make double sure when I put the RAM back in, I put it down all the way. Yeah, there's no screw underneath the RAM. I'll bring this up closer to the camera and you guys can see what's under there. What you're going to see is the circuit board and what appears to be the frame behind the CPU cooler. So we took out that screw, and then the 3 down here. You'll see the plastic cuts away around the RAM. but the plastic is underneath the M.2, requiring the M.2 out. And then if you look, is it this way or is it that way? That way, that looks like, that right there looks like the Wi-Fi card. I think that's what it is. Can't be sure until I get this big piece out, but yeah. No screws under there. Good thought. No luck. All right, put the RAM back in. This one. There's two. And we will plug it back in and turn it on and make sure I have seated the RAM correctly and everything still works like it's supposed to. On. Screwdriver put away. And yeah, booted up just fine. So it looks like the other internet connection is now having some issues. Yeah, it looks like the other internet connection had some issues there. Like I said, I am recording the streams so they can be uploaded in their entirety without interruption. When we're live, things can happen. The last couple days, Cox Communications in Phoenix has had some problems across the city. I don't know if it's related to the heat or they're doing some kind of an upgrade, but it's very unusual for us to see outages so frequently day after day like this, especially in the middle of the afternoon. But didn't really miss anything there as far as I know. As you can see, we've booted back up. Everything looks good. I'll go back over to camera 1. Geo Johnson said his power and hard drive activity LED stopped lighting on my fractal design define mini C case. Those light emitting diodes or LEDs are usually good for a lifetime. It is possible that it got damaged. It's also possible that it's not seated on the pins correctly. What I would do if I were you is I would remove the LED connector from the motherboard. I would double check where it's supposed to go. Make sure you've got the positive cable on the positive pin. And I would do this while the machine is entirely off and unplugged from the wall. And if the LED, if it has a power LED and a separate hard drive LED, reverse them. Make the hard drive LED the power LED, make the power LED the hard drive LED. It's unlikely they both went out. Any other questions? I'll do my best to provide answers. Starshine says it's physical interference. When Carrie stood next to the camera, it cut out the Wi-Fi. The camera's not on Wi-Fi. The camera's run with a solid cable to the computer back over here. And that computer's not on Wi-Fi either. So Yeah, that's just coincidence. Sunspot activity. Hey, for all I know, it's possible. Richard Palmentier with a $3 super chat contribution. Thank you, Richard. All right, so let's go back to HDMI input, and we will see how long it takes to restart, just to get a feel for how fast this machine is. Starshine says, I have a PC storage related question. If you had data that you could not bear losing, such as family photos, how would you store them to guarantee their safety? I would make multiple copies of any data, and I would store them in multiple locations, physical locations. When it comes to family, it's very easy to make backups by giving the other members of the family in a photo a copy of said photo. They will be your backups. You can also use something like Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive to back up your photos to the cloud. You could also get an M-Disk. They're claiming M-Disk Blu-ray recordable discs are good for 1,000 years. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. But it's supposed to be one of the best archival types of media, but it will require an investment on your part and a lot of belief that it's actually going to last. One of the problems with archival storage is the ability to have a device to read the storage back. So for example, and the example I like to give is that I have 8-track tapes from the 1970s, which I imagine will play just fine if I could find an 8-track player to play them in. And that's nowhere near 1,000 years. We're only talking a couple of decades ago, 5 decades. So when it comes to the media storage, it's not just the length of time the storage has, but also the length of time, the ability to read, a device that's designed to read, like a floppy disk. You could have some 3.5-inch floppy disks that are perfectly fine, but finding a floppy drive, a little more difficult, and it's going to get harder as time goes on. So if they're photos of family, I would give copies of the photos to the people in the photos. They would be your off-site backup. I would also upload the photos to online storage, whether it's Dropbox. You could email yourself a copy of the photos and have a free Gmail account and use that. The problem, of course, when you look at the terrible tragedy in Maui, where the island, the city on the island caught fire. One of the things that people on the news are talking about is they lost their photos. They have what's on their phone, but everything else is gone. Nobody knew that fire was coming. It's unprecedented, and nobody was ready for it. So it's important, if the data is important to you, that you get it in a different physical location. Given what's happened recently, when these events occur, anytime anybody ever loses data, regardless of why they lost the data, they have one thing in common, all these people, and that is that they weren't expecting it. So whether your house gets robbed or it burns down, whether you've stored all your files on one drive, the drive has failed, or it's gotten infected with a virus or ransomware, maybe you accidentally deleted it, maybe you kept it on a memory card and now the memory card just stopped working. The idea is that you want it in multiple locations. 2 would be a very bare minimum. Ideally, if they're that important, I'd say a half dozen locations. John Paul Bacon mentions you could use a cloud backup service, say from your cell phone provider or a cable service provider. Yeah, if such a thing is available to you, you might look into that as well. Shadow Dash Media says, can the computer handle full-time RV living, and what is the appropriate computer for full-time RV living? What is the best haircut to get when you're in an RV? That's an impossible question to answer because each person will decide what RV living means to them, how they live in their RV, how they define that is unique to each individual. I can't tell you how much salt you should put on something because I don't know what your preferences are. So in life, there are only answers to some questions that only apply to you and nobody else. And you're the only one who can answer those questions. Charles Vandola with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Charles. If you have older photos, it's always a good idea to scan them, get them digital, because even if nothing happens to these photos, they will fade over time. Once you turn them into ones and zeros, digital ones and zeros, they'll never fade. Wherever condition those photos were in when you scan them is how they'll remain indefinitely. And it's just a matter of making copies so that you have those photos in multiple locations in case of a tragedy, of an unexpected, unfortunate event. You have to prepare for the unexpected. For how do you prepare for that, right? And the best way you can is, at least as far as data goes, multiple offsite locations, multiple copies. I want to take a look at one of my OBS settings here. Winston Liu contributes 5 Canadian dollars and said, I sent you a Canadian PayPal. It's a Canadian PayPal. I'll check my phone here one more time. $20 from Winston Liu. Right on. Thank you, Winston. $20 from JR Chirapa. Thank you, JR. Hey, there's the Amazon gift card from Andy Kane for $10. He says this will help out in some way or another. Thanks for what you do for us. It's gratefully appreciated. Well, right on. Thank you, Andy. Now, what's interesting, Andy, is I show two gift cards from you. I'm assuming you meant to send one. It may be the same card. I don't know until I go to activate it. But just so you know, I see 2 now from you. But it could be the same one you sent twice. Alan Lindos contributes $7.77. It says, today's content is worth double. Here's another $7.77 coming your way, Carrie. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you, my friend. I just want to scroll through and see if there's any other questions I might have missed. Input Dragon in the chat said if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get unlimited full resolution photo storage and 5 gigs of storage for video. That's a good point. And what's great about having your photos uploaded to, if you're an Amazon Prime customer, is any of your Amazon devices and even a smart TV can set those as a screensaver that comes on. You can select individual photos or individual folders, and you can even randomize it to be your screensaver. Yeah, 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. Thank you for mentioning that. I completely forgot about that. Majin Guy says, what percentage of membership fees does YouTube keep? 30%. 30% of membership fees Amazon takes. 45% of any AdSense revenue. 45% of AdSense revenue YouTube keeps. If this channel makes $1,000 in AdSense revenue, Amazon keeps $400 and gives me $600. If I have $100 in memberships, Amazon keeps $30 and gives me $70. Then, of course, the government comes knocking on the door going, give us 20% of that. Okay. What is it? We're just at 2 hours, so I think we might just be wrapping it up here. Seems the chat room's pretty quiet today. Gil Garcia says, good show, Carrie. Thank you, Gil. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. It's always a pleasure having you in the chat, being able to interact with one another, unlike TV or standard YouTube videos, which is one way only. I love the interaction. And for people that watch this video after it airs live, you are missing out on a major part of the enjoyment of this video by not participating in our chat. Strongly encourage you to pop into our chat room sometime when we're live and just say hello at the very least. As long as you're kind, you're always welcome to join our community. And it's so much more enjoyable when you participate in these videos than just watching them as a spectator. But I just want you to know, regardless of what you might normally do elsewhere, this community is very welcoming unless you're somebody who is rude. If you're a jerk, don't even bother. Other than that, we'd love to have you here in our chat room. Thanks to all my friends in blue. Thank you to all my friends in green, all those folks with the badges that are supporting this channel. Thank you so much, as well as all the Super Chat contributions. I want to shout out those folks one more time. So going from the most recent, thank you to Alan Lindos and Winston Liu, Charles Van Dola. Thank you to Richard Palmentier and Paul O'Brien, Mark Gaines. Thank you to Victor Calendar. Oh, I missed Victor's contribution of £2 earlier. Thank you, Victor. Colin Hunt with £2. Thank you to Paul O'Brien again, Donnie Seeger, Eric G., Captain Blinsky, Ben Laird, Douglas Burchell, Rick Lakes. Find me in Hawaii. Our friend Buster. And Sarge Tech was the first contribution, even before the video started. For those membership renewals, thank you to Chris Johnson, Mortant 1210, Alhej Tepej, Les Stevenson, and Tim Davern and Matthew Burden. Thanks, guys, for renewing your memberships here. And on the Amazon gift card and PayPal contributions, another shout out of appreciation and gratitude to Andy Kane, Winston Liu, J.R. Chirapa, Ron Barnish, Matthew Burden, Barry Klein, Mortant 1210, Frankie B, Nick Caffrey, Alan Lindas, and again, another huge thank you to our friend Dave Stetzel for the Amazon gift card. think I got everybody there. And I did say Frankie B, right? I hope I said Frankie B. Thank you for supporting the channel, guys. Guess that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Overall, pretty easy computer to review, very easy to come to a conclusion, especially, again, after the fiasco of the mini PC from those other folks that we don't even want to talk about anymore. You won't be seeing them on the channel ever again. More ACEMagic? Yes, please. And thank you to ACEMagic for sending us the machine prior to it being released so we get an early look, a first look, what I believe is an exclusive look here on YouTube or anywhere on the internet, which I appreciate very much, to bring you very unique content that you're not going to find anywhere else, or at least be the first. And of course, thank you to Camera Girl for the camera work and today's thumbnail. That'll wrap it up for me for today, and not sure if I'm going to be live this weekend or not. Again, you can subscribe and turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter, where I post when I'm going live. Follow me on Facebook, where I post when I'm going live. Or just tune in around a little after 1 o'clock Pacific time daily to see if I'm live, because if I'm going to go live, that's usually when I will be. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.